Welcome everyone. This is episode 49 of the Transmaxxing podcast, and today's topic is Pandora's experience before transitioning. So why don't you start about like your early experience in life and how it eventually led to you realizing that transitioning was for you?
I do suffer from dysphoria. I've never really gotten an official diagnosis, partly because A, that shit's expensive as fuck. Good luck actually getting a psychiatrist post-COVID. B, shit's just never really worked out. I guess there's always been like a very severe mismatch with how I feel inside, how my outside looks, but also how even more so, like how I'm allowed to interact with the outside world, how I present as a cis man, like I'm forced to play a certain type of role, a certain type of the X, Y, and Z. And that never really, nothing really felt authentic. Nothing ever felt comfortable with that to the point where it caused a lot of severe issues in my life. Definitely us, like socially, and obviously romantically, sexually. I've done nothing at all on terms of that. So I tried. I did the whole going to the gym thing, and then you get the better hairstyle, and you get the better clothes, and you kind of fake it up, and you fake it till you make it, and it just really doesn't do jack shit. It didn't really do much of anything, and just for me personally, it just didn't really feel right. Nothing about it felt authentic. Nothing was exciting about it. Just general self improvement shit. Just really, there was something much deeper, like hurting, and I didn't really, for years, I really didn't understand what was going on. I knew about transgender shit for a while, but I never even, I just kind of blew it off. I'm like, yeah, obviously that's not me because listen to masculine music. I like masculine this. I like masculine that. Can't be me. Literally impossible. And I just kind of blew it off until just year after year after year went by. A lot of things just didn't improve. I had to get to a point. I had to go deeper within myself. I really had to ask myself really tough questions and why I just felt so. I just felt like a chronic ick inside. I had to get really serious. I had to start investigating myself deeply. And by that point, I was already talking to some trans people in other Discord servers I was in at the time. That didn't spawn the idea, but it certainly got me at least a little more comfortable, with the whole idea because I was definitely more of an edgy person back then. I didn't really. That got me a little more comfortable with the whole idea, and it felt really crazy at first to think like, okay, well maybe I should explore this. Maybe I should really see what's up. Going into myself, really investigating, I realized I had a big problem. I didn't even want to associate within the world, really, just the outside world in terms of talking with people. And I had a really hard time building a personality. I just couldn't really. There was something about the male way of doing things that's rigid, aggressive, always competitive, literally always competitive, always going. It just really, there was something really wrong. I wasn't compatible with it.
Yeah,
And
it can be very hard to find who you are when you're like in the wrong area and then looking in the wrong places to try to find yourself.
yeah, right. It really is. And there's so many blocks to the male gender. It's hard to express yourself. A lot of people, if you're born a man and you're going with that gender stock, you're expected to follow certain expectations. You're expected to be a certain way, talk a certain way, dress a certain way, be a very particular way. And if that doesn't really excite you, that's not like super comfortable to you, that's not going to get you, up and going every morning. It's a real fucking struggle, especially nowadays. It is a real struggle. There was a point, like around late 2019 before the pandemic, I snapped. I'm like, shit, I can't do this anymore. This is a fucking joke. This is just a complete joke. there was a lot of self-hate going on, and there's also, other dynamics within the male gender. I was listening to the podcast 44 about are most males obsolete or whatever, and a lot of the stuff you guys were talking about in that episode was 150,000 million percent just everything I felt. I experience and still currently experience all those feelings and a lot of those realities. It was really hard on me because I didn't want to live life that way. I knew that I could be more. I could express myself in different ways. I could express myself just in a more bright way is kind of like the way I could express it. And working with this gender, just not allowing that, and that was blocking me from developing a real personality to where I could talk with people, like, be a normal human being, which is obviously going to block you from making friends, from developing romantic relationships, sexual relationships. It's going to fuck you over there. And I couldn't fulfill these unrealistic expectations. And I just decided enough's enough. I think I'm going to explore this. Maybe if I tried to be a little more feminine, maybe things would feel a little better for me. And I just started I went very slowly. I just started on Discord where I would start just going by different pronouns. And I was really shy. And, the more I went down with different pronouns, trying out different clothes, coming out to the friends that I had at the time, it felt shocking. Like I was going through and I was in shock the whole time. And I almost still kind of am. It wasn't like a kumbaya moment, but it was like, there's weight being removed. There's almost 20 years of pressure just kind of slowly being released there. And I can, maybe start to sort of grow myself as a person a little more. So I'm like, okay, well, I think this is it. And as I started to try out, feminine clothing, and I actually went out as a female a couple times. And when I was with my friends, I would let myself communicate with them like just as a cis woman would, with the same sort of personality, same way of talking, I guess you can call it, to be simple. And it felt a lot more natural. It felt a lot more authentic. I felt like I could breathe, I could relax. I don't have to worry about, oh my God, I don't have to look over my shoulder all the time. If I'm going to say the wrong thing, express something the wrong way, or I'm going to get called something, or I'm going to do something wrong. I didn't have a lot of these anxieties when I expressed myself in my authentic feminine way, I guess you can call it. And so that's what really, after a couple years of trying that, I really realized, okay, I think this actually is for me, as absolutely shocking as it is. This is for me. And it almost still kind of blows my mind to this day, but it's just amazing how much pressure gets removed off me in my life when I don't have to worry about fulfilling expectations that, quite frankly, social expectations I can't fulfill. I just can't do it. So yeah, and that's what sort of led me to going down this road. And then there were things, with some self introspection in my childhood that, there's some pointers that I was gonna, go that this was who I am, that I had dysphoria at a really early age, but I didn't know it at the time. I didn't know anything about trans anything until I was like maybe even my late teens at that point. So I didn't know. I didn't. You hear a lot of stories about how trans women, they know as soon as they turn 5 or 10 or 12 or 15. I wasn't one of those people. I didn't really know until I was like, what, 19 or something like that. And I didn't even know about transgender or anything until like I was maybe 16 or something like that. I just had no idea. I was going throughout life, not making friends, not wanting to go out there, not willing to try, feeling just completely like like it's not I don't know what's wrong with me. I don't know why I don't like talking to anyone. I don't know why I just don't like participating. There's something, I feel icky. I feel just dark, crap, yucky, ew, and to extremes. And I couldn't understand why. I thought it was just normal depression. I thought a lot of different things. I thought maybe there was something neurologically wrong with me. Maybe I was just cursed, doomed, be fucked because of different circumstances. For context, I was a homeschooled kid, so I didn't get to go out and hang out with a lot of different friends.
Like, homeschooling is obviously going to fuck you up your social life.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, definitely. If you don't have parents who are on top and always bringing you to the right social events and always doing exactly what they're supposed to, which most don't, unfortunately, you're going to be socially isolated. It's almost like being in a fucking prison almost. And I went like that through, I was socially isolated from like third grade to like right up to like the second half of high school. That long. So, I mean, there was something always there that, like a signal that was like, oh, okay, you can push, you can make some friends, you could try to get out there. But I was reading other people's experiences of what it's like out there and a lot of the, the male stuff I already mentioned. And I knew I didn't have it in me to participate, but I didn't fully understand why. Um, so yeah, that's kind of what happened.
So my question to you is, what caused you to go down the road of transitioning over, say, trying to be like a feminine male or something like that?
Yeah, sure. So there's a lot of reasons. I didn't want to really get clocked as like a gay man, because there's always something about that was just like even less authentic than being just a straight guy or whatever. Because hey, I'm not really attracted to men. I didn't want that kind of attention, and I'm like, I don't want to get misinterpreted. I don't want to. I was really, really paranoid about presenting the right way in front of a cis woman, just the right way. I had to be perfect, if I were ever to do this. And, I always figured, during that time, well, shit, I'm a feminine man. I'm going to ruin most of my chances. I'm only going to have gay guys hitting me up or whatever. But it also didn't feel right. I guess just how I'm built physically isn't really the most feminine either. So I never thought I could fully get away with it. I didn't want to try it. It was never really an option that I wanted to go down. It was always just kind of one way or the other for me, but that's kind of what happened with that.
I mean, we both know that feminine males are often being treated badly and not really being respected by society.
No, they're not. And that's another thing too. It's just I knew it was going to be really hard. I mean, even as a guy with longer sort of awkward face hair, as I'm presenting now, you don't get the full same respect as if, say, I ran back out and I got a haircut and I maybe grew out my beard back out, and you get less respect. You get looks more off. People don't want to really look at you as much anymore. I already noticed the difference just from literally just growing out my hair and shaving. It's real. It is fucking real. So, yep. So, when I did realize that, I am trans, I have dysphoria, everything matches up there by the definitions, and I did not like that. I kind of accepted it at first because this was like more like around 2017, 18ish for context. At first, I was very accepting of myself. Jumped straight into it right away because I had a whole bunch of more of the far left wing, very hyper political sort of Discord friends who were trans. That was the group I was in, types of people I was talking to at the time. So I wasn't really fully feeling or thinking. I just kind of jumped into it and accepted myself. But once I sort of did, I kind of had a shock, like an honest to God shock, and I just went, oh, what am I doing? What the fuck am I doing? All of my interests are masculine. This could be very dangerous. This was during the Trump administration, during a time where I was not talking, listening to mentally sound people, let's put it this way. And I was paranoid. I did not feel safe, and I felt very angry towards myself. And I, unfortunately, going into late 2019, I sort of tried to go back. I tried to revert back. I tried to just sort of repress myself, and I said, you know what, this is going to be a phase. This is just going to be the thing of the times. I'm going to ignore this shit. I'm not going to entertain the thought anymore. Goodbye, goodbye, goodbye. Where's the death metal albums? Put that on. Where's the video games? Turn that on. The pandemic. The pandemic's up and going. Oh, great. I can just drown myself in all this shit. I started smoking a lot of weed at that point, which initially helped repress me a lot because I could just get high and games and go to the gym, go to work, ignore. So yeah, so that's what I was doing. Eventually, and I thought if I hit up the gym enough times, if I smoked enough carts, if I did all of these things, I listened to the right music albums. I'm gonna be still have my V card at 19, but you know what? I'm just gonna kind of push through. I'm gonna hustle through it. And it didn't feel good. It felt fake. It felt forced. It felt disgusting. And I tell myself, well, this is just the way things are. Too fucking bad. So sad. I hated myself, and I had no success. Nobody, swiped. Nobody wanted to really get with me. Nobody couldn't really find anyone. The gym would actually make me feel a lot worse. Like I was at such a low point in my life. I would literally like get on the treadmill, and I would get so angry and depressed by the end of it. I would have to leave the gym after 15 minutes, which is insane. So I really had to feel myself. I had to go back deep within myself, realize that maybe I don't want to interact with the world in this masculine way that I'm quote unquote supposed to. Maybe I want to grow out my hair. Maybe I want to wear some of the girls' clothes that I was wearing, experimenting with, right before I went to repressing in that very short window in early 2020. And I had to come back to it. I realized this isn't going to work. Nothing I do makes me feel good. If it makes me feel like this shit, then if I can't do it, then I can't go on with what had, the stock settings that was given to me. I can't do it. I had to make a choice, and I decided to get on HRT. Eventually, going up to 2022, I started getting out of that, repression phase, and I decided, well, I don't fully feel safe taking hormones. But like at this point, going into 2023, like late 22, early 20, I had enough. Nothing was working out for me. I'm 21 now. I still have my V card. I have no friends because I was, so emotionally fucked. I basically lost my friends. I had no excitement about life. I just hated everything and everyone and everything, and just I couldn't associate with the world. Like I couldn't focus on things. I couldn't socially be there. I couldn't emotionally be there. I couldn't do it. I just couldn't function. I knew what I did. I knew the choice of repression I made, and say, you know what? I don't want to be trans. Yeah, okay, I'm frustrated that I'm a minority. Okay, I'm a little fucking frustrated about that. I'm frustrated I have to go through some hard challenges with transitioning and going through all this. And it's not easy. It's not going to be the most fun. It's not going to be a fucking cakewalk. There wasn't a magical president who didn't get elected to come save me and we're all living in a paradise. That didn't happen. But I'm in pain and I have to do something. And I decided that, okay, I really am trans. I can't run away from this forever. I have to do this. And this was almost a year ago, I think a year ago, and I wasn't really making enough money at the time to transition fully. I was only working a part-time job. But I snapped and I decided to just kind of get some hormones right away. I told Planned Parenthood, just give me the lowest dose. I just want to check this out. Start off on the lowest possible dose. They gave me that. And fortunately, even though I knew I was trans, even though I knew any type of feminine anything I did, always made me feel more comfortable, always made me feel more like a human being. Fortunately, to tell you the truth, I was still running away from a lot of things. I was still smoking a lot of weed, not gonna lie, and it was really fucking with my mental state. And so it kind of made me go through a meltdown. I was on it for about 2 weeks. There were a lot of things that made me feel a lot better. It's almost very hard to explain with words, I guess. The best way that I can describe it is like going into like a dial, like a really deep setting, really deep within yourself, and this a switch gets flipped, and it's like whatever the icky something that was causing this horrific fucking catastrophe of chain of events just turned off, and that was great. But unfortunately, that just wasn't the right time for me. I had a lot of stuff I wasn't working on, and so I ended up freaking out because I losing my sex drive, and I'm like, oh no, what am I gonna do? And I just became really scared about that because I wasn't able to ground myself. I wasn't able to tell myself it's okay. We're gonna Google what happens when this happens. If we're gonna be okay, are we gonna be okay? Unfortunately, I didn't have the capacity to do that at that point. So because of problems like that, I only lasted about 2 weeks on hormones, and I gave it up. I did sort of go through like another second short phase of repression, but I eventually, I did a lot of internal work. I quit all the weed crap. I basically just started really working on myself, working on some things internally, getting grounded, and realized, okay, and after about almost a year of doing that now and getting a new job that's full time, I have the money to do this proper now, so I don't have to be paranoid about that either, which was another issue. Finally, I'm in a spot now where I'm a lot better off mentally, and I started experimenting with clothes again. That made me feel a lot better. I did some voice training. I did like a day or two of voice training, just experimenting with a different voice. That made me feel a lot better. I'm not really using that voice right now, but that made me feel a lot better, and it made a lot of the paranoid disassociations go away and the dysphoria go away. So I realized, okay, yep, you know what? I'm in a better spot right now. The things that I was really fighting and running away from a year ago, they're starting to get healed up. I think it's time. So now, later this week, I got another appointment. I'm going to get back on it. And I feel like, obviously, nothing's ever set in stone. I could end up taking it and realize it's not for me, but I don't think that's going to be the case. I think because of everything I've been through at this point, because of how many times I've tried to get out of being trans and trying to run away and do the normal self-improvement shit, never works, never works, never work. It's a cycle. And I said, I have to break the cycle. I'm in a safer, better spot right now. Let's try it again. And I got my appointment Wednesday, and I'm going to hop back on it. And I actually feel a lot better about it. That first time I was getting on it, I was very anxious. I was very paranoid. I think I wasn't there. It wasn't the right time, I guess, but I'm feeling a little better about it now. I'm feeling a little more calm, a lot more calm. I feel grounded. I feel like this is the right thing for me to do. And yeah, I'm honestly excited to break the cycle. I'm really excited to break the cycle. So I hope that made sense. I hope that made sense.
So, at what point did you discover transmaxing?
Yeah, so I discovered that this year. This was how many months ago? I don't know, like maybe 4, 5, 6 months ago, something like that. I haven't been keeping track, to be honest with you. But at first, I thought it was a little silly because I kind of skimmed through the manifesto, and I'm like targeted towards the actual incel community. Where I was never a part of that community. Never wanted to be. I saw the screenshots. I said, nope, I'm good, thanks. I'm a technical incel, but I'm not that kind of a motherfucker. So let's not go join these cockle-doodle doos.
Well, by
Yeah,
nature, but wasn't part of the group at all. Same here.
right. Yeah. Okay. I'm glad I'm not the only one. So the reason why it spoke to me,
Yeah. I know that's a big scary thing when it comes to like losing your sex drive and you Google that stuff. There's always a big scare that you will permanently lose your fertility, which if you stay on HRT, that will be the case. But you can stop HRT and you're very likely to get your fertility back.
yeah, I've researched about that. After the paranoia phase, I researched things. I'm like, oh, I was a little out of my mind, and if I was just in a healthier space, if I was just in a less chaotic mind, I could have researched. I could have, I would have realized I was probably okay, but I wasn't. So Anyway, I got into Transmax because there was something about normal trans communities I could never really connect with. I feel like at least a lot of the ones that I looked into online that I tried to connect with, like through Reddit or and Discord, is that a lot of them they either go, at least from my personal experience. I don't know if this is anyone else's personal experience, but they tend to go of two directions. One of them is kind of like a very like toxic positivity where everything that you talk about, say, express must be positive, 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 positive.
Yeah,
Um,
like
if
like you're
you,
walking on eggshells kind of thing. Yeah, that's how I felt with a lot of trans faces as well.
yep, yep. Yeah, it's insane. You have to walk on very serious eggshells. You cannot deviate. You cannot question things. You can't have intelligent discussions on a lot of different subjects. I couldn't get my answers really. I couldn't feel like I could express myself. And especially in those toxic positivity communities, if I try to express how I wasn't really having any friends, I don't have a girlfriend, a lot of, I guess, the incel kind of stuff. I mean, there were people who would, try to say nice comments, but they didn't really mean much because you could tell they were very fake, robotic. Most people just ended up either ignoring you or just end up blocking you, or I would get kicked out of servers just for expressing that because by I guess trans people who were always been more sexually successful and they just didn't want to hear bitching and moaning, I guess. I don't know, but I would always get kind of kicked out. And that really sucked. And the other type of community, I think more so maybe later maybe in the late 2010s, I would run into were the very like political, the type of communities where you would go in, you would not expect anything like really to be all that political, but you'd go in and it'd be nothing but like absolutely nothing but like far left politics stuff, and we're always in fear, we're always in paranoia, we're always freaking the fuck out. It's just like constant, just paranoia, insanity, anxious political talk, and I really wanted to get away from that because those were like a lot of the types of people I was talking to when I first got into it. That's not where I'm at now. That's not really who I wanted to connect with, and I just wasn't going to fit into that, and I really didn't want that kind of anxiety in my life. So I was left without a community. I was left without an in-person community. I was left without an online community because I couldn't find a trans community. I felt like I couldn't find a trans community that was just normal, right in the middle, sort of fucking sane, I guess. Apparently, I couldn't find it, and I watched, I think it was one of the documentaries about someone who transmaxed,
Oh
and I
no.
and
Didn't
I
mention
thought,
that before documentary or whatever.
yeah, yeah, they sort of, yeah, but I sort of looked past, how they did that, and I sort of realized they're making this person look out to be crazy, but this person is just trying to like improve themselves, and they're acknowledging they're actually someone who was not romantically, socially, sexually successful or whatnot beforehand, and that type of past does not get represented in trans communities. In a lot of trans communities, you are just flat out not allowed to express your experiences with that. They will just flat out not fucking have it, which is insane to me. And seeing that, it was a breath of fresh fucking air. Let me tell you, I felt like I was finding something a little sane over here, and it made me feel a little better when I realized the whole goal of Transmax was to get away from incel shit. It was to get away from a lot of this, and you guys were taking people from that actual really terrible community. You were actually trying to solve a real fucking issue. It wasn't just a meme of, oh, incel turns into trans. It was a little more real. You guys were actually trying to do something. I was all about that, but I couldn't believe it. I thought, in a good way, I thought this is great. These people like seem like they're actually fucking sane. You know what? Let me join their Discord. Let me see what this is all, all about. And honestly, in a way, it sort of helped me having this, more sort of like sane community has given me the confidence to sort of like come out and sort of break my cycle over here, and that I don't have to go into these weird toxic positivity or paranoia stereotypes or whatever. And I don't have to do any of that. I could just be me. I don't have to fit in anybody's box. Just because I'm a trans woman, I don't have to be X, Y, and Z, and I don't have to be A, B, and C. I can be myself, and I can express myself the way I am. And it's really helped. It's really helped. It gives me a place to go to when I know I'm not going to find any real support or any real connection from other trans communities. So really, thank you for that. Like seriously, thank you. I think what you guys are doing is just phenomenal. It really is.
I do think it's important that people are allowed to like discuss political topics. But we do all have more than one opinion here. I do want to have like discussions because I find it interesting to hear from different perspectives. So even if it is like a Nazi, then we have like a communist, we have all kinds of people here. And of course, if someone is a Nazi, I can point out how they are wrong and then they stop arguing after a while. Because you show
Yeah,
them that what you believe here doesn't work. And a lot of the time, when people are radical, don't really have other people pointing that out to them because other people just avoid them. So having a space where we can discuss those controversial topics and actually analyze it critically really helps. People who are into those like bad mindsets where they have become maybe radicalized but maybe not really what they really want to believe in. It's just because someone else like pushed them in that direction, and that might not be what they truly want if they really think about it.
exactly. I think you really hit the nail on the head right there. I even had a discussion with somebody about this on something unrelated, but if we can't even have a conversation, we can't compare A and B. If everyone is saying X and we're not even allowed to question why, we can't have a debate, we can't have a conversation, we can't feel into ourselves, we aren't going to come up with answers. What we're going to end up with is just staying with the same rigid program. Whether it works, it doesn't work, we're going to stay with the same old ideas. We're never going to move forward if we don't talk about anything controversial, if we're too scared to face these darker things and ask really serious hard questions. We aren't going to come up with conclusions. We just flat out aren't. That's not the way human beings work. We have to debate. We have to ask questions. We have to talk with each other. Through that way, that's the only way we're really going to come up with the true, actual answers and get problems solved. And it's just insane to me that a lot of the trans community, they won't do that. They absolutely refuse. They, to put it in a very, very simple, generalized way, they really stick with the program and they stay in one stream of thinking. They won't go out of it. They won't even entertain the idea. And it's going to cause, it causes so much harm. They don't even realize it.
And also, the fact that something right now is working and helping people does not mean that we cannot do better. Like all the time, we have to look for ways to do things better, to improve. And this has been my mindset with this community. How can we make things better? How can we do HRT better? How can we deal effectively with like political problems? Can you like flee to safer states? What are the consequences of like Donald Trump getting re-elected? Like how dangerous will he be? To be told, I don't really know. But we have to be able to discuss it from all directions. Do people have to like leave the country worst case, and where can you go to? Like all those questions needs answers. And just putting your head in the sand via like toxic positivity isn't the answer. Also don't think being overly paranoid is necessarily the solution either. I'm sure I can understand like paranoia about governments because we can look at history and see horrible things having happened before, so I can see why people are worried. But also let's not underestimate ourselves like that.
Yeah, definitely.
What are you looking forward to when it comes to like HRT and like changes you'll do to help better express yourself in the near future?
That's what the number one thing. If somebody pointed a gun to my head and said, "What's the one thing you are looking for in this whole fucking ordeal?" I would tell them authenticity because I mean, obviously, I feel dysphoric about the way I look on the outside, and that is true. I'm going to feel a lot more comfortable on that aspect if I look like a woman, if I pass as a woman, which is what I want, of all the typical normal changes someone would want and expect out of HRT. Also, I know that once I do look like that, all these social rules are going to break. They're going to die. And basically, I'm going to be allowed to talk to people femininely, which is going to make me feel more authentic and comfortable. And I know that there's a lot of hormonal changes, and just from my short, very brief experience, I know it's just like a key that's being turned inside me. Things are just, regulating correctly, and there's a lot more emotion. I have a lot of built up trauma. I know HRT is going to help me release that. I know that I'm going to look, a lot more pretty. I'm going to be a lot more happy if I look that way. I'm just going to feel a lot better. I'm just going to gain a lot more self confidence. And I know that's just the way I can be a lot happier. So that's really what I want out of HRT. I just want to live a happier, and to also, just look, be a pretty girl, because that's after a lot of introspection. That's what makes me happy. That's what feels authentic to me. That's what makes me feel whole deep inside, and all that. I hope that answered that.
I love that answer.
Yeah, I think it will be a great improvement for you instead of trying to drown your emotions with like drugs and trying to like escape the world in video games. You're actually looking towards a better life as a female for real, not in a virtual world. And I think this marks the end of episode 49 of the Transmaxxing podcast. I hope that you will have a nice way forward and that your transition will be a success. Goodbye everyone.